History is often told as a grand play. It has its leading men and its famous battles. We all know the story of Paul Revere, don't we? A brave silversmith on his trusty horse. He galloped through the Massachusetts countryside, shouting his famous warning, "The British are coming." It's a tale of daring that every American schoolchild learns. But history is never quite so simple. It's not just a stage for a few famous actors. Behind the curtain, there are always other players, people whose stories are just as crucial, yet somehow they get missed out. Tonight, we're going to pull back that curtain. We're going to meet a remarkable young woman whose own midnight ride was twice as long and perhaps even more dangerous than Revere's. Her name was Sybil Ludington, and her story changes everything we thought we knew about that famous night. Let's set the scene. It is April 1777. The American Revolutionary War is in full swing. The air in the colonies is thick with tension and the smell of gunpowder. Families are divided. Neighbors eye each other with suspicion. Are you a patriot, loyal to the cause of independence, or are you a loyalist faithful to King George III? This wasn't a war fought only by men in smart uniforms on distant battlefields. It was a conflict that seeped into every town, every farm, and every home. People lived with the constant threat of raids. Their everyday lives were filled with uncertainty. They relied on local militias, small bands of volunteer soldiers, for protection. But for a militia to be effective, it needed to be gathered quickly, and that required a messenger, a very brave one. In the small settlement of Fredericksburg, New York, lived the Ludington family. The head of the household was Colonel Henry Ludington. He was a respected figure, a farmer and a mill owner who commanded the local patriot militia. His regiment consisted of about 400 men, but they were scattered across a wide area, living on their farms miles apart. Gathering them was a monumental task. The roads, if you could call them that, were little more than muddy tracks winding through dense, dark forests. It was a landscape where a lone rider could easily get lost, or worse, run into British soldiers or Loyalist sympathizers. On the night of April 26, 1777, this exact challenge would fall upon the shoulders of one of the colonel's children. But it wasn't one of his sons. It was his 16-year-old daughter, Sybil. So, why her? Sybil was the eldest of 12 children. She knew the local countryside like the back of her hand. She was an expert horsewoman, accustomed to riding for miles to visit neighbors or run errands for her father's mill. Life in colonial America made people tough, and Sybil was no exception. She would have been used to hard work, from helping her mother with household chores to assisting with the farm. She was not a delicate, sheltered young lady of the sort we might imagine from old paintings. She was practical, strong, and deeply loyal to her family and the patriot cause. On that fateful night, when a tired messenger arrived with devastating news, Colonel Ludington needed someone he could trust completely, someone fast, someone fearless. He looked at his daughter, and he knew she was the only one for the job. Imagine a young woman, just 16 years old. Her name is Sybil Ludington. It's a name that doesn't ring as many bells as Paul Revere, does it? But it should. Sybil was living in a world on the brink of enormous change. Fredericksburg, now known as Ludingtonville in Putnam County, New York, was a frontier community. Life was rugged. There were no paved roads, no streetlights, just a collection of farms and homesteads carved out of the wilderness. The people here were self-reliant and fiercely independent. They had to be. Their survival depended on their wits, their hard work, and their neighbors. This was the world that shaped Sybil. She wasn't just a colonel's daughter. She was a child of the American frontier. The Ludington home would have been a hub of activity. As a colonel in the militia, Henry Ludington's house was a nerve center for patriot intelligence. Messengers would come and go. Plans would be discussed in hushed tones by the fireside. Sybil would have grown up hearing these conversations. She would have understood the stakes. The talk wasn't of abstract political ideas. It was about protecting their homes, their land, and their way of life from the most powerful army in the world. She would have seen the worry on her father's face and the determination in the eyes of the men who came to him for orders. This wasn't a distant war for her. It was happening right on her doorstep. On a stormy night in April 1777, Sybil Ludington mounted her horse and set out alone into the darkness. She rode 40 miles through pitch-black woods, battered by wind and rain. Her only guide the flash of lightning and the memory of country roads. At each farmhouse, she stopped to pound on doors with a stick, rousing sleeping militiamen and warning them, "The British are burning Danbury." The journey was perilous. British patrols roamed the countryside, and every shadow could hide danger. But Sybil pressed on, never turning back. By dawn, nearly 400 militiamen had gathered, ready to defend their homes. Thanks to Sybil's warning, many lives and vital supplies were saved, even as Danbury suffered losses. Today, Sybil Ludington is remembered as a true American heroine. Her courage and determination echo through history, a reminder that bravery knows no age or gender. As the sun rises over the countryside, we remember Sybil's ride, a story of courage, resilience, and the power of one determined young woman to change the course of history.